The bus door hissed open, releasing Rebecca Hollis into the thick August heat of Charleston, South Carolina. She stepped down onto the curb, her single brown suitcase gripped in both hands like a shield. The fabric of her simple green dress clung to her back, damp with sweat and nerves. Around her, the city hummed with life, strangers passing by without a glance, their lives untouched by hers. Rebecca had practiced this moment 100 times in her mind during the 18-hour bus ride from Ohio. She would ring the doorbell. A housekeeper would answer. Mr. Theodore Peterson would appear, take one look at her ordinary face and tired eyes, and politely inform her that there had been a mistake. She would nod, thank him for his time, and ask where the nearest bus station was. No tears. No begging. Just dignity in the face of inevitable rejection. She had signed the contract 3 weeks ago in a lawyer's office that smelled like old paper and desperation. The terms were clear. She would serve as a live-in companion and caretaker for Mr. Peterson's young daughter. Room, board, and a modest monthly stipend that would cover her brother Daniel's medical bills. No promises beyond that. No guarantees. If either party wished to terminate the arrangement, they could do so with 2 weeks' notice. The lawyer, a thin man with kind eyes, had asked her twice if she understood what she was agreeing to. Rebecca had nodded both times. She understood perfectly. She was 28 years old, unmarried, with no degree and no prospects. Daniel needed cancer treatment that their insurance barely covered. Their parents were gone. She had no one else to turn to. When the agency offered her this opportunity, calling it a domestic arrangement, rather than what it actually was, she had taken it without hesitation. Now, standing outside the tall iron gates of the Peterson estate, Rebecca wondered if she had made a terrible mistake. The house beyond the gates was beautiful in a way that made her chest tight. 3 stories of pale brick and white columns, surrounded by gardens that looked like they belonged in a magazine. She pressed the buzzer and waited, her heart hammering so hard she could feel it in her throat. No one answered. She pressed again, longer this time. Still nothing. Rebecca checked her phone. The address was correct. The time was right. She had confirmed everything twice before boarding the bus. Maybe he had changed his mind. Maybe he had found someone better, younger, prettier. Maybe this was his way of telling her not to bother. She was about to turn away when she heard it. A small voice, high and clear, calling from somewhere beyond the gate. Hello? Are you Rebecca? Rebecca froze. She peered through the iron bars and saw a little girl running across the lawn, her dark hair flying behind her. She wore bright yellow shorts and a red shirt with a cartoon character on the front. Her face was flushed with excitement. The child reached the gate and grabbed the bars with both hands, pressing her face close. Are you Rebecca Hollis? From Ohio. Rebecca knelt down to be at eye level with her. Yes, I am. Are you Olivia? The girl's face split into the widest smile Rebecca had ever seen. Yes. I've been waiting for you all day. Daddy said you were coming, but he had to go to a meeting, and Mrs. Cho went to the store, and I was supposed to stay inside, but I heard the buzzer and I knew it was you. The words tumbled out in a rush, barely paused for breath. Rebecca found herself smiling despite her nerves. Can you open the gate for me? Olivia bit her lip. I'm not supposed to touch the button. But I can run and get Daddy. He's in his office. Wait right here, okay? Don't leave. Before Rebecca could respond, the little girl was sprinting back toward the house, her sneakers kicking up bits of gravel. Rebecca watched her go, something warm and unexpected blooming in her chest. No one had ever been that excited to see her before. 5 minutes later, the gate buzzed and swung open. A man appeared at the top of the front steps, tall and lean, dressed in a white button-down shirt with the sleeves rolled up. Theodore Peterson. Even from a distance, Rebecca could see the exhaustion in the set of his shoulders, the way he held himself like someone carrying a weight too heavy to set down. She walked up the long driveway, her suitcase wheels clicking against the stones. Olivia bounced at her father's side, chattering about something Rebecca couldn't quite hear. When Rebecca reached the steps, she stopped and looked up at him. Theodore Peterson had a serious face, the kind that didn't give anything away. His eyes were dark and careful, studying her the way someone might study a puzzle they weren't sure they wanted to solve. He was younger than she had expected, maybe 35, with threads of gray already visible in his black hair. Miss Hollis, he said, his voice low and even. Welcome. I apologize for not being at the gate. I was on a call. It's fine, Rebecca said quickly. I understand. Olivia tugged on her father's sleeve. Daddy, can she come in now? I want to show her my room. Theodore's expression softened just slightly when he looked down at his daughter. Let's let Miss Hollis settle in first, Olivia. She's had a long trip. He gestured for Rebecca to follow him inside. The house was even more intimidating from within. High ceilings, marble floors, furniture that looked like it had never been sat on. Everything was clean and ordered and cold. It felt like walking into a place where happiness had once lived but had long since moved out. "Mrs. Cho will be back soon," Theodore said as he led her up a curved staircase. "She manages the household. Your room is on the second floor, next to Olivia's. There's a private bathroom. You're welcome to use any of the common areas. Meals are served at 7 in the morning, noon, and 6 in the evening, but if you need anything outside those times, the kitchen is always open." Rebecca nodded, trying to absorb it all. Olivia skipped ahead of them, humming to herself. Theodore stopped in front of a white door and pushed it open. "This is yours." The room was larger than the entire apartment Rebecca had shared with Daniel back in Ohio. A queen-sized bed with a soft blue comforter. A desk by the window overlooking the garden. Closet that could have fit her entire wardrobe 3 times over. It was beautiful and impersonal, like a hotel room designed by someone who had never stayed in a hotel. Rebecca set her suitcase down by the bed. "Thank you. It's lovely." Theodore stood in the doorway, his hands in his pockets. For a moment, neither of them spoke. Olivia had disappeared into her own room across the hall, her voice drifting back as she talked to herself. "I'll be honest with you, Miss Hollis," Theodore said finally. "I wasn't sure this was a good idea. The agency recommended you highly, but this situation is unconventional." Rebecca's stomach tightened. Here it was. The rejection she had been expecting. She lifted her chin and met his eyes. "I understand, Mr. Peterson. If you've changed your mind, I can leave. You can send me back. No hard feelings." The words came out steady, even though her hands were shaking. She had promised herself she wouldn't beg, and she wouldn't. Theodore stared at her, something unreadable crossing his face. Before he could respond, Olivia burst back into the room, holding a worn stuffed rabbit with one ear missing. "Rebecca, this is Mr. Buttons. He's my best friend. Well, he was. But now you're here, so maybe you can be my best friend too." She held the rabbit out like an offering, her eyes wide and hopeful. Rebecca took the rabbit gently, cradling it like it was made of glass. "I would be honored to be your friend, Olivia." Olivia turned to her father, her small face suddenly serious. "Daddy, please don't send her away. I like her. She has kind eyes." Theodore looked at his daughter, then at Rebecca, then back at his daughter. Something in his expression cracked just a little. He crouched down and pulled Olivia into a hug, his voice rough when he spoke. "I'm not sending her away, sweetheart. Rebecca is going to stay with us." Olivia squealed and threw her arms around Rebecca's waist, nearly knocking her backward. Rebecca caught herself against the desk, laughing despite the tears that had started to blur her vision. Theodore stood and cleared his throat. "We'll discuss the details later, Miss Hollis. For now, please rest. Dinner is at 6. He left the room, closing the door quietly behind him. Rebecca sank down onto the bed, Olivia still clinging to her, Mr. Buttons crushed between them. She stared at the ceiling and tried to steady her breathing. She had come here expecting nothing. And somehow, in the span of 15 minutes, a little girl with kind eyes of her own had given her something she hadn't felt in years. Hope. But as Rebecca sat there in that beautiful, lonely house, she couldn't shake the feeling that this was just the beginning. That the real test was still to come. If this story has already grabbed your heart, imagine how it unfolds from here. Will Rebecca find the family she never had, or will the whispers and judgment tear them apart? Comment below what you think happens next, and subscribe so you don't miss a single chapter of this journey. Your support means everything. Rebecca woke to sunlight streaming through unfamiliar windows. For a moment she forgot where she was. Then memory rushed back. The estate, the little girl, the quiet man who had agreed to let her stay. She sat up and checked her phone. 6:15 in the morning. She had always been an early riser, a habit formed from years of working 2 jobs to keep the rent paid. The house was silent. Rebecca dressed quickly in jeans and a soft pink blouse, then made her way downstairs. The kitchen was enormous, all granite countertops and stainless steel appliances that gleamed under recessed lighting. A woman in her 60s stood at the stove, stirring something in a pot. She turned when Rebecca entered, her face breaking into a warm smile. "You must be Rebecca. I'm Grace Cho. Mr. Peterson told me you arrived yesterday." Rebecca shook her hand. "It's nice to meet you, Mrs. Cho. I'm sorry I missed you." "No apologies needed, dear. I had to run errands." Grace gestured to the coffee pot. "Help yourself. Breakfast will be ready in 20 minutes. Mr. Peterson usually eats in his office, but Olivia likes to eat at the table." Rebecca poured herself coffee and sat at the kitchen island, watching Grace work. The older woman moved with practiced efficiency, cracking eggs into a bowl, slicing fruit, setting out plates. It was clear she had been running this household for a long time. "How long have you worked for Mr. Peterson?" Rebecca asked. 8 years. I started just after he married. Grace's expression softened. That was a happy time. Catherine, his wife, was a lovely woman. Full of life. When she passed, it was like all the light went out of this place. Rebecca's throat tightened. Olivia mentioned her mother died. "I'm sorry. 3 years ago. Car accident. Sudden." Grace wiped her hands on a towel, her eyes distant. "Mr. Peterson hasn't been the same since. He throws himself into work, comes home late, barely eats. And Olivia, that child needed a mother's touch. I do my best, but I'm not young anymore and I have my own family to tend to." She looked at Rebecca directly, her gaze sharp and assessing. "That's why he went through the agency. He needed help, real help, and he was willing to do whatever it took to give Olivia some stability. I hope you're prepared for what that means." Rebecca met her eyes. "I'll do my best." Grace nodded, satisfied. "That's all anyone can ask." Footsteps thundered down the stairs and Olivia appeared in the doorway, still in her pajamas, her hair a tangled mess. Her face lit up when she saw Rebecca. "You're still here." Rebecca smiled. "Of course I am. Where else would I be?" Olivia climbed onto the stool next to her and leaned her head against Rebecca's arm. "I thought maybe you were a dream." Rebecca's heart squeezed. She wrapped an arm around the little girl and pulled her close. "I'm real. And I'm not going anywhere." They ate breakfast together, Olivia chattering about her favorite cartoons, her best friend at school, the loose tooth she was trying to wiggle free. Grace watched them with quiet approval, refilling Rebecca's coffee without being asked. Theodore appeared briefly, dressed in a dark blue suit, his tie perfectly knotted. He grabbed a travel mug of coffee and a piece of toast, barely glancing at the table. "I'll be home late tonight," he said, his voice clipped. "There's a board meeting." Olivia's face fell. "But Daddy, you promised we'd play checkers." "Tomorrow, sweetheart. I promise." He kissed the top of her head and was gone before she could protest. The silence he left behind felt heavy. Olivia stared down at her plate, her earlier excitement fading. Rebecca reached over and squeezed her hand. "How about we play checkers today? I'm not very good, so you'll probably win." Olivia's smile returned, small but real. "Okay. But first, can you braid my hair?" "Daddy tries, but he can't do it right." After breakfast, Rebecca sat with Olivia in the girls' bedroom, a space filled with stuffed animals, picture books, and toys that looked barely touched. She gently worked through the tangles in Olivia's hair, braiding it into 2 neat plaits. Olivia chattered the entire time, asking Rebecca questions about Ohio, about her brother, about whether she liked butterflies or ladybugs better. Rebecca answered each question patiently, surprised by how easy it was to talk to this child. Olivia listened with her whole body, nodding seriously, asking follow-up questions that showed she was really paying attention. It had been a long time since anyone had cared what Rebecca thought about anything. The days settled into a rhythm. Rebecca woke early, helped Olivia get ready for school, walked her to the bus stop at the end of the long driveway. She spent her mornings cleaning, organizing, learning the routines of the household. Grace taught her where everything was kept, how Mr. Peterson liked his coffee, which foods Olivia refused to eat. In the afternoons, Rebecca picked Olivia up from the bus stop and they did homework together at the kitchen table. Olivia struggled with math but loved reading, often asking Rebecca to read chapter books aloud while she colored. Rebecca discovered she enjoyed this quiet time, the weight of Olivia's head against her shoulder, the sound of crayons scratching across paper. Theodore remained a distant presence. He left early and came home late, usually after Olivia was already in bed. When he was home, he was polite but removed, speaking to Rebecca only to confirm schedules or relay information. He never asked how her day was. Never joined them for dinner. Never lingered. Rebecca told herself it didn't matter. She wasn't here for him. She was here for Olivia, and for the money that kept Daniel's treatment on track. But sometimes late at night she would hear Theodore moving around downstairs, the clink of a glass, the creak of his office door, and she wondered what it was like to carry that much grief alone. On Friday, Rebecca decided to bake cookies. Olivia stood on a stool beside her, measuring flour with intense concentration, her tongue poking out between her teeth. The kitchen filled with the smell of vanilla and chocolate chips, warm and sweet. "My mommy used to make cookies," Olivia said quietly, watching the mixer spin. "But then she got sick and couldn't anymore. And then she went to heaven. Rebecca's hands stilled. I bet she made really good cookies. The best. Olivia looked up at her, her eyes too solemn for a 6-year-old. Do you think she would like you? The question hit Rebecca square in the chest. She knelt down so she was eye level with Olivia, flour dusting her jeans. I think any mother would be grateful that someone is taking care of her little girl. And I think she would want you to be happy. Olivia considered this, then nodded. I think so too. They baked 3 dozen cookies, ate 2 warm from the oven, and left a plate on Theodore's desk with a note, from Olivia and Rebecca. Rebecca didn't expect a response. But that night, when she went to check on Olivia before bed, she found a small note tucked under her own door, written in neat, angular handwriting. Thank you for the cookies. They were perfect. TP. Rebecca held the note for a long time, tracing the letters with her finger. It was such a small thing, barely an acknowledgement. But it felt like a crack in the wall he had built around himself. She folded the note carefully and placed it in her drawer, next to the contract she had signed and the photo of Daniel she kept close. Then she climbed into bed and stared at the ceiling, wondering if maybe, just maybe, she was beginning to find a place here. The week ended with Olivia begging Rebecca to paint her nails. They sat on the floor of Olivia's room, surrounded by bottles of polish in every color imaginable. Olivia chose bright purple. Rebecca painted each tiny nail with careful strokes, listening as Olivia talked about her upcoming school project, about her friend who had moved away, about the nightmares she still had sometimes. Do you ever have bad dreams? Olivia asked. Rebecca thought about the dreams she'd had before coming here. Dreams of eviction notices and hospital bills, of watching Daniel waste away because she couldn't afford the treatment he needed. Sometimes, she admitted. What do you do when you're scared? Rebecca finished the last nail and capped the bottle. I remind myself that I'm stronger than I think. And that tomorrow might be better. Olivia studied her nails, wiggling her fingers to dry them. I'm glad you're here, Rebecca. You make the house feel less empty. That night, Rebecca lay in bed and thought about everything that had changed in just 7 days. She had a roof over her head. Food in her stomach. A little girl who looked at her like she mattered. It wasn't love. It wasn't family. But it was more than she had dared to hope for. And for now that was enough. The playground was full of mothers when Rebecca arrived with Olivia on Saturday morning. They clustered in groups near the benches, coffee cups in hand, designer sunglasses perched on their heads. Their children ran wild across the wood chips, screaming with joy as they climbed jungle gyms and flew down slides. Olivia grabbed Rebecca's hand and tugged her toward the swings. Push me really high, okay? Rebecca obliged, standing behind the swing and pushing gently at first, then harder as Olivia shrieked with delight. The wind whipped Olivia's braids back, and her laughter rang out clear and bright. For a moment, Rebecca forgot about the women watching from the benches. But she felt their eyes on her. Felt the weight of their judgment like a hand pressing on her chest. A blonde woman in expensive athleisure wear detached herself from one of the groups and walked over, her smile sharp as glass. You're new here. I'm Patricia Monroe. My daughter Sophia is in Olivia's class. Rebecca kept one hand on Olivia's swing, maintaining the rhythm. Rebecca Hollis. Nice to meet you. Patricia's eyes swept over her, taking in her plain jeans, her simple white sneakers, her lack of jewelry. Are you Olivia's nanny? The question was innocent enough on the surface. But Rebecca heard what lay beneath it. The assumption. The dismissal. I'm her caretaker, Rebecca said evenly. How modern. Patricia's smile didn't waver. Theodore Peterson is quite the catch, isn't he? I imagine there's a lot of competition for that position. Rebecca's jaw tightened. I'm here for Olivia. Of course you are. Patricia glanced back at her friends, who were watching with barely concealed interest. It's just that we've all known Theodore for years. Since before Catherine died. And we care about Olivia. We want to make sure she's in good hands. The implication was clear. Rebecca wasn't good hands. She was an outsider, someone who had no right to be here, someone who had probably manipulated her way into this job for money or status or worse. Olivia jumped off the swing mid-arc, landing hard on the wood chips. She marched over to Patricia, her small face fierce. Rebecca is the best. She braids my hair and reads me stories and makes me cookies. And my daddy says she's staying. Patricia's smile faltered. Of course, sweetheart. I didn't mean to suggest otherwise. But Olivia wasn't done. You're being mean. My mommy always said mean people are just sad inside. The playground went quiet. Every mother was staring now, their conversations dying mid-sentence. Patricia's face flushed red, a mix of embarrassment and anger. She opened her mouth to respond, but Rebecca stepped forward and placed a gentle hand on Olivia's shoulder. It's okay, Olivia. Mrs. Monroe is just looking out for you. That's what neighbors do. She met Patricia's eyes, her voice calm but firm. I understand your concern. If I were in your position, I'd be concerned too. But I promise you, I'm here to take care of Olivia. Nothing more, nothing less. Patricia stared at her for a long moment, then turned on her heel and walked back to her group. The whispers started immediately, low and buzzing like wasps. Olivia grabbed Rebecca's hand and squeezed. I'm sorry. I shouldn't have yelled. You were defending me. That took courage. Rebecca knelt down and cupped Olivia's face. But remember, kindness is braver than anger. Even when people are unkind to us. They stayed at the playground for another hour, but the joy had leaked out of it. Rebecca could feel the stares, hear the whispers that followed them from the swings to the slide to the climbing wall. Olivia didn't seem to notice, or maybe she was just used to it. When they got home, Theodore's car was in the driveway. Unusual for a Saturday afternoon. Rebecca's stomach knotted. Had someone already called him? Had Patricia Monroe gone straight home and dialed his number, spinning some story about the inappropriate woman he'd hired? They found him in the living room, still in his work clothes but with his tie loosened. He looked up when they entered, and Rebecca saw something in his expression she hadn't seen before. Concern. Olivia, why don't you go wash up for lunch? He said gently. Olivia glanced between them, sensing the tension, then nodded and ran upstairs. Theodore waited until her footsteps faded, then turned to Rebecca. My assistant received a call this morning. From Patricia Monroe. She expressed some concerns about your suitability. Rebecca's heart sank. I see. She said you were defensive when she tried to have a friendly conversation. That Olivia became upset and yelled at her in front of other parents. Rebecca took a breath, choosing her words carefully. Olivia defended me when Mrs. Monroe implied I wasn't qualified to take care of her. I tried to de-escalate the situation. I apologize if it reflected poorly on you. Theodore studied her, his dark eyes unreadable. What exactly did Patricia say to you? Rebecca hesitated. She didn't want to cause trouble. Didn't want to seem like she was making excuses. But she also wouldn't lie. She questioned why you hired me. Suggested there might be ulterior motives. Olivia overheard and got upset. Theodore's jaw tightened. He was silent for a long moment, staring out the window at the garden where roses bloomed in neat rows. Patricia Monroe lost her husband 2 years ago, he said finally. She's been persistent in her attempts to position herself as a presence in our lives. I've made it clear I'm not interested. This is her way of retaliating. Rebecca blinked. She hadn't expected that. Theodore turned back to her. I don't care what Patricia Monroe thinks. I don't care what any of them think. What I care about is whether Olivia is happy and safe. Is she? Yes, Rebecca said without hesitation. She's a wonderful little girl, Mr. Peterson. And I'm doing everything I can to make sure she knows she's loved. Something in his face softened just slightly. She is loved. I just haven't been very good at showing it lately. The admission hung in the air between them, raw and honest. Rebecca didn't know what to say. Didn't know if she should say anything at all. Theodore cleared his throat. I'm sorry you had to deal with that today. You shouldn't have to defend yourself for doing your job. It's fine. I'm used to people making assumptions. That doesn't make it right. He moved toward the stairs then paused. I'm staying home for the rest of the day. I thought maybe we could all have lunch together. If you'd like. It was the first time he had included her in anything. The first time he had acknowledged her as more than hired help. Rebecca felt something warm uncurl in her chest. I'd like that very much. Lunch was simple. Sandwiches and fruit that Grace had prepared before leaving for the weekend. They ate at the dining room table, Olivia chattering about the playground, about the swings, about how high she had gone. She didn't mention Patricia Monroe. Theodore listened, really listened, asking questions and laughing at Olivia's animated retellings. Rebecca watched him with his daughter and saw glimpses of the man he must have been before grief hollowed him out. Warm. Present. Full. After lunch, Olivia begged them to play a board game. Theodore agreed, and they spent the afternoon on the living room floor, moving game pieces around a colorful board while Olivia made up half the rules as she went. Rebecca found herself laughing, genuinely laughing, for the first time in months. When Olivia finally wore herself out and curled up on the couch for a nap, Theodore walked Rebecca to the kitchen. They worked in companionable silence, loading the dishwasher, wiping down counters. Can I ask you something? Theodore said, his voice low. Rebecca looked up. Of course. Why did you agree to this arrangement? The agency said you had other options. Rebecca dried her hands on a towel, considering her answer. She could lie. Could make it sound less desperate. But something about his directness made her want to be honest. My brother has cancer. The treatment is expensive and I couldn't afford it on my own. When the agency offered me this position, I didn't hesitate. I needed the money. And the agency made it clear you needed help. It seemed like we could help each other. Theodore nodded slowly. Your brother. How is he doing? Better. The last round of treatment went well. His doctors are optimistic. Her voice caught. I wouldn't have been able to give him that without this opportunity. So thank you. You're helping my daughter, Theodore said quietly. That's worth more than money. They stood there in the kitchen, the afternoon light slanting through the windows, and Rebecca felt something shift between them. Not attraction. Not yet. But recognition. Two people who had been alone for too long, finding an unexpected understanding in each other's presence. That night, after Olivia was tucked into bed, Rebecca sat in her room and called Daniel. He answered on the second ring, his voice stronger than it had been in weeks. Hey stranger. How's the fancy life treating you? Rebecca smiled. It's complicated, but good. How are you feeling? Tired, but good tired. The doctors said I can start physical therapy next week. Relief washed over her. That's wonderful, Danny. It is. Thanks to you. His voice grew serious. I know this can't be easy, Becca. Living in someone else's house. Taking care of someone else's kid. If you need to come home. I'm okay, she said and meant it. Really. Olivia is sweet. And Mr. Peterson he's trying. He better be treating you right. He is. I promise. After they hung up, Rebecca sat by her window and looked out at the garden below. The roses glowed in the moonlight, perfect and untouchable. She thought about Patricia Monroe's accusations, about the whispers that would follow her wherever she went in this town. She thought about Theodore's quiet defense of her. About Olivia's fierce loyalty. About the way the house felt a little less empty when they were all together. This wasn't going to be easy. But maybe, just maybe, it would be worth it. Theodore started coming home at 6 o'clock. Not every day but most days. He would walk through the front door, loosen his tie, and find Rebecca and Olivia in the kitchen or the living room or the garden, doing homework or baking or simply talking. He would pause in the doorway watching them, and Rebecca would feel his presence like a question he didn't know how to ask. Daddy? Olivia would squeal, launching herself at him. He would catch her, swing her up, bury his face in her hair. And for those few seconds, the careful mask he wore would slip, and Rebecca would see the father beneath the grief. One evening, 2 weeks after the playground incident, Theodore joined them for dinner. Grace had made roasted chicken with vegetables, and they ate at the kitchen table instead of the formal dining room. Olivia dominated the conversation as always, recounting her day with dramatic flair. And then Jamie spilled his entire milk carton all over his pants and he had to go to the nurse and get new clothes from the lost and found, and they were bright orange sweatpants, and everyone laughed, but I didn't because that would be mean. Theodore smiled, a real smile that reached his eyes. That was kind of you, sweetheart. Rebecca says kindness is braver than anger, Olivia said matter-of-factly, stabbing a piece of broccoli with her fork. Theodore glanced at Rebecca. Did she? Rebecca felt her cheeks warm. I might have said something like that. It's good advice. He turned back to his plate, but Rebecca caught the ghost of a smile on his lips. After dinner, Olivia begged Theodore to read her bedtime story. He agreed, and Rebecca started to excuse herself, but Olivia grabbed her hand. You have to come too. You do the voices better. So Rebecca found herself sitting on the edge of Olivia's bed, Theodore in the rocking chair by the window, while Olivia snuggled under her covers with Mr. Buttons. They read a chapter from a book about a girl who could talk to animals, Olivia interrupting every few sentences to add her own commentary. When the chapter ended, Olivia yawned, her eyelids drooping. Theodore kissed her forehead. Good night, sweetheart. Sweet dreams. Good night, Daddy. Good night, Rebecca. Rebecca smoothed Olivia's hair back. Good night, honey. They left the room together, pulling the door mostly closed behind them. In the hallway, Theodore paused, his hands in his pockets. She's happy, he said quietly. I haven't seen her this happy in a long time. She's a wonderful kid. You've done a good job with her. Theodore shook his head. I've been absent. Distracted. You're the one who's made the difference. You're here now. That's what matters. He looked at her, then really looked at her, and Rebecca felt something shift in the air between them. Not romantic. Not yet. But a recognition. An acknowledgement that they were both trying, both doing their best in an impossible situation. "Can I ask you something?" he said. "Of course. Do you ever regret coming here? Taking this job?" Rebecca considered the question. There were days when she felt out of place, when the judgmental stares at the grocery store or the park made her want to pack her bag and leave. But then she would come home and Olivia would run to her, arms wide, face glowing, and the doubts would fade. "No," she said honestly. "I don't regret it." Theodore nodded, something like relief crossing his face. "Good. Because I don't know what we'd do without you." The words settled over her like a blanket, warm and unexpected. She had spent so much of her life feeling invisible, unnecessary. Hearing that she mattered, that her presence made a difference, cracked something open inside her chest. "Thank you," she managed. They stood there in the quiet hallway, the only sound Olivia's soft breathing from behind the door. Then Theodore cleared his throat and stepped back. "I should get back to work. Good night, Rebecca." "Good night, Mr. Peterson." He paused at the top of the stairs. "Theodore. You can call me Theodore." It was a small thing. Just a name. But it felt like an invitation, a lowering of walls. "Good night, Theodore." The days continued. Theodore started joining them for dinner every night he was home. He helped Olivia with her homework, patiently explaining math problems Rebecca struggled with. He played games with them, built block towers, read stories. Slowly the house began to feel less like a museum and more like a home. One Saturday Theodore suggested they visit the beach. Olivia's excitement was contagious, and even Rebecca found herself looking forward to it. They drove out to a quiet stretch of sand an hour from the city, Olivia chattering the entire way. The day was warm and clear, the ocean sparkling under the sun. Olivia ran straight for the water, shrieking when the cold waves touched her toes. Rebecca and Theodore followed more slowly, carrying bags with towels and snacks. "I used to bring Olivia here all the time," Theodore said, watching his daughter splash in the shallow water. "Before Catherine died. We'd spend whole Sundays here. Building sandcastles. Collecting shells." "Why did you stop?" "It hurt too much. Every memory of this place included her. I couldn't separate the joy from the loss." He glanced at Rebecca. "But today feels different. Lighter maybe." Rebecca didn't know what to say to that, so she said nothing. They sat on a blanket and watched Olivia play, her laughter carrying on the wind. After a while, Rebecca kicked off her shoes and walked down to the water's edge, letting the waves wash over her feet. Olivia ran over and grabbed her hand. "Come help me build a sandcastle. A really big one." They spent the next hour constructing an elaborate castle, complete with towers and a moat. Theodore joined them, his sleeves rolled up, his serious face relaxed into something that almost looked like contentment. They worked together, passing buckets and shovels, laughing when the waves came too close and threatened their creation. When the castle was finished, Olivia stood back and admired it, hands on her hips. "It's perfect. We should take a picture." Theodore pulled out his phone and they posed together, Olivia in the middle, Rebecca and Theodore on either side. It was the first photo Rebecca had been in since leaving Ohio, and when Theodore showed it to her, she was surprised by how natural they looked. Like a family. The thought both thrilled and terrified her. That night, after Olivia was asleep, Rebecca sat in the living room with a book she wasn't really reading. Theodore appeared in the doorway, 2 mugs of tea in his hands. He offered her one without a word. "Thank you," she said, taking it. He sat in the chair across from her, cradling his own mug. For a while, they sat in comfortable silence, the only sound the ticking of the grandfather clock in the corner. "I need to tell you something," Theodore said finally. Rebecca's stomach tightened. "Okay. When Catherine died, I shut down. I focused on work because it was the only thing that made sense. Numbers, strategies, problems I could solve." He stared into his tea, his voice low. "I told myself I was providing for Olivia, giving her stability. But the truth is I was hiding. From my grief. From my guilt. From her." Rebecca's throat ached. "You don't have to tell me this." "I do. Because you need to understand why I was the way I was when you first arrived. Why I've been so distant." He looked up, his eyes dark and honest. "I didn't think I deserved to be happy again. I didn't think I had the right. And now I think maybe I was wrong. Maybe healing isn't a betrayal. Maybe moving forward isn't the same as forgetting." He set his mug down and leaned forward, his hands clasped between his knees. "You've given Olivia her childhood back. And you've reminded me that there's still life worth living." Rebecca's heart pounded. "I'm just doing my job." "No. You're doing so much more than that." He stood, moving to the window, his back to her. I know this arrangement started as a transaction. But somewhere along the way it became something else. For me at least. Rebecca set her own mug down with trembling hands. What are you saying? Theodore turned, and the vulnerability in his face nearly undid her. I'm saying I care about you, Rebecca. Not as an employee. As a person. And I don't know what to do with that. The confession hung in the air between them, fragile and frightening. Rebecca's mind raced. This wasn't supposed to happen. She was here for the money, for Daniel, for survival. Feelings complicated things. Feelings made everything harder. But she couldn't deny that she cared about him too. About his quiet strength, his slow smile, the way he looked at Olivia like she hung the moon. About the man he was becoming as he let go of his grief, piece by painful piece. I care about you too, she whispered. Theodore crossed the room and knelt in front of her, taking her hands in his. Then let's see where this goes. No pressure. No expectations. Just honesty. Can we try that? Rebecca looked into his eyes and saw hope there, fragile and precious. She thought about all the reasons this was a bad idea. The contract. The money. The whispers. The fact that she still felt like an outsider in this world. But she also thought about Olivia's laughter. About the way the house felt when they were all together. About the possibility of something real and good and lasting. Yes, she said. We can try. Theodore smiled, a real smile that lit up his whole face. He squeezed her hands and stood, pulling her to her feet. Thank you. For everything. For being here. For staying. I'm not going anywhere, Rebecca said, and this time she believed it. That night, Rebecca lay in bed and thought about the risk she was taking. Letting herself care. Letting herself hope. It would be so easy to get hurt. So easy to lose everything she had built here. But as she drifted off to sleep, she realized she was tired of playing it safe. Tired of protecting herself at the expense of living. Maybe it was time to be brave. Nathan Brooks arrived on a Thursday afternoon, driving a sleek black sedan that purred like a contented cat. Rebecca watched from the upstairs window as Theodore greeted him in the driveway, the two men shaking hands and clapping each other on the back. Nathan was tall and broad-shouldered, with an easy smile and the kind of confidence that came from years of winning. Olivia had mentioned Uncle Nathan before. He wasn't really her uncle, but Theodore's best friend since college, the lawyer who had helped him build his company from the ground up. Olivia adored him, said he told the best jokes and always brought her presents. Rebecca smoothed her green sweater and headed downstairs. She wasn't sure why she felt nervous. Nathan was just a friend visiting. But something about the timing, about the way Theodore had mentioned it this morning with careful casualness, set her on edge. She found them in Theodore's office, the door half open. Nathan's voice drifted out, warm and teasing. So where is she? This miracle worker who's got my goddaughter smiling again? Theodore's response was too quiet to hear. Rebecca knocked softly on the doorframe. Both men turned, and Nathan's face broke into a wide grin. You must be Rebecca. Nathan Brooks. It's a pleasure to finally meet you. He crossed the room and shook her hand with genuine warmth. Theodore hasn't stopped talking about you. Theodore shot him a look that could have melted steel. I've mentioned her in passing. Right. In passing. The way someone mentions the sun. In passing. Nathan winked at Rebecca, and she found herself smiling despite her nerves. It's nice to meet you too, Mr. Brooks. Olivia's been excited about your visit all week. Call me Nathan. And I hope you'll join us for dinner. I want to hear all about how you've managed to domesticate this workaholic. They ate in the formal dining room, Grace having prepared a feast that could have fed 10 people. Olivia sat next to Nathan, peppering him with questions about his recent trip to New York, his dog, his car. Nathan answered each one with patience and humor, making Olivia giggle with exaggerated stories. Rebecca sat across from Theodore, acutely aware of Nathan's sharp eyes flicking between them, noting every glance, every small interaction. She felt like she was being assessed, measured against some invisible standard. After dinner, Olivia dragged Nathan upstairs to show him her latest art project. Theodore and Rebecca were left alone in the living room, the silence stretching awkward and tense. He seems nice, Rebecca offered. He's fishing. Trying to figure out what's going on here. What is going on here? Theodore met her eyes. I don't know yet. But I'd like to find out. Before Rebecca could respond, Nathan's voice echoed down the stairs. Theo, got a minute? Theodore sighed and stood. I'll be right back. Rebecca stayed in the living room, pretending to read a book while straining to hear the conversation happening in Theodore's office. She caught fragments. Nathan's voice low and serious. Theodore's defensive. Then, are you falling for her? Pause. Long and heavy. I don't know. Maybe. Jesus, Theo. This could complicate everything. The contract. The legal standing. If anyone challenges this arrangement. I don't care about the contract. Well, you should. Because if Patricia Monroe or anyone else decides to make trouble, they could use this against you. They could say you're exploiting her. Or that she's manipulating you. It could affect custody of Olivia. Rebecca's blood ran cold. She hadn't thought about that. Hadn't considered that her presence here could put Olivia at risk. She stood quietly and moved closer to the office door, heart pounding. Nathan, I need you to hear me. Rebecca isn't like that. She's genuine. Kind. She cares about Olivia. I believe you. But the law doesn't care about intentions. It cares about optics. And this doesn't look good. So what are you saying? That I should send her away? Tear Olivia's world apart again just to avoid potential legal problems. I'm saying you need to be careful. Think this through. If you're developing feelings for her, you need to address the contract. Renegotiate. Make it clear this isn't an employer-employee relationship anymore. Protect yourself. Protect her. Rebecca backed away from the door, her hands shaking. She should leave. Should pack her bag and go before she caused more damage. Before her presence here destroyed the family she had come to love. She made it halfway up the stairs when Theodore's voice stopped her. Rebecca. Wait. She turned, her eyes stinging. Theodore stood at the bottom of the stairs, his face stricken. How much did you hear? Enough. Her voice cracked. I should go. I don't want to cause problems for you and Olivia. You're not causing problems. He climbed the stairs 2 at a time, stopping just below her so they were eye level. Nathan is being cautious. That's his job. But he doesn't get to decide what happens here. We do. But what if he's right? What if this puts Olivia at risk? Then we deal with it. Together. He reached out and took her hand, his touch gentle but firm. I meant what I said the other night. I care about you. And I'm not going to let fear dictate how I live my life. Not anymore. Rebecca searched his face, looking for doubt, for regret. She found only determination. I care about you too, she whispered. But I'm scared. So am I. But I think the risk is worth it. Don't you? Before she could answer, Olivia's voice called from upstairs. Rebecca? Where are you? Uncle Nathan wants to hear the story about the cookies. Rebecca managed a shaky laugh. I'm coming, honey. Theodore squeezed her hand once more, then let go. We'll figure this out. I promise. That night, after Nathan had left and Olivia was asleep, Theodore knocked on Rebecca's door. She opened it to find him holding 2 mugs of hot chocolate, marshmallows melting on top. Peace offering, he said. They sat on the small couch in her room, sipping their drinks in silence. Finally, Theodore spoke. Nathan thinks I should renegotiate your contract. Make it clear that you're not just an employee anymore. That would protect us both, legally speaking. What would that make me? I don't know. A partner maybe. Someone I'm choosing to build a life with. If that's what you want. Rebecca's heart raced. Is that what you want? Yes. But only if it's what you want too. I won't pressure you. If you'd rather keep things as they are, we can do that. I just need to know where we stand. Rebecca thought about Daniel, about the money that kept him alive. She thought about the contract she had signed, the terms that had brought her here. And she thought about Olivia, about Theodore, about the fragile, beautiful thing they were building together. I want this to be real, she said quietly. Not a transaction. Not an arrangement. Real. Theodore set his mug down and turned to face her fully. Then let's make it real. We'll renegotiate the contract. We'll do this the right way. What about the money? I still need to pay for Daniel's treatment. We'll work it out. I'll make sure Daniel gets the care he needs, regardless of what happens between us. You have my word. Rebecca's eyes filled with tears. Why are you doing this? Why are you being so kind? Theodore reached out and brushed a tear from her cheek, his touch feather light. Because you deserve kindness, Rebecca. Because you've given me and Olivia more than you'll ever know. And because I don't want you to stay here out of obligation. I want you to stay because you choose to. Rebecca leaned into his touch, closing her eyes. I choose to stay. Good. He pulled her into a hug and she rested her head against his chest, listening to the steady beat of his heart. We're going to make this work. All of us. Together. They sat like that for a long time, holding each other in the quiet darkness, the future uncertain but suddenly full of possibility. Over the next few days, Theodore worked with Nathan to draft a new agreement. Rebecca read it carefully, her hands trembling. It outlined her role as a companion and caretaker, but also acknowledged the personal relationship developing between her and Theodore. It ensured Daniel's medical expenses would be covered for the next 2 years, regardless of Rebecca's employment status. And it gave her the right to leave at any time with no penalties, no questions asked. "This is more than fair," she told Theodore when they signed it. "Thank you. It's what's right." He took her hand across the table, Nathan watching with cautious approval. "Now we move forward. Together." Rebecca felt the weight of the old contract lift off her shoulders. For the first time since arriving, she felt like she belonged here. Not because of an agreement or obligation, but because she had chosen it, and because they had chosen her back. The call came on a Tuesday morning while Rebecca was helping Olivia pack her lunch. Grace answered the phone, her cheerful greeting fading into a tense silence. She glanced at Rebecca, then away quickly. "Yes, she's here. One moment, please." Grace held out the phone, her expression unreadable. "It's for you? Someone from the Department of Child and Family Services." Rebecca's stomach dropped. She took the phone with shaking hands. "Hello. Miss Hollis, this is Angela Torres with DCFS. I'm calling regarding Olivia Peterson. We've received a complaint about the home environment and I need to schedule a visit to assess the situation." The world tilted. Rebecca gripped the edge of the counter to steady herself. "A complaint? From who?" "I can't disclose that information. But I can tell you we take all reports seriously. I'd like to visit tomorrow afternoon if possible. Will you and Mr. Peterson be available?" "Yes, of course. Whatever you need." Angela gave her a time and hung up. Rebecca stood frozen, the phone still pressed to her ear, her mind racing. Someone had reported them. Someone wanted to take Olivia away. "Rebecca?" Grace's voice was gentle. "Are you all right?" Rebecca set the phone down carefully. "I need to call Theodore." Olivia tugged on her sleeve, her face worried. "What's wrong?" Rebecca forced a smile. "Nothing, honey. Just a grown-up thing. Go brush your teeth, okay?" Theodore came home within the hour, his face tight with controlled fury. He listened as Rebecca relayed the conversation, his jaw clenching tighter with every word. "It was Patricia Monroe," he said when she finished. "It had to be. We don't know that. Who else would do this?" He paced the kitchen, running his hands through his hair. "She's been hostile ever since you arrived. This is her way of getting back at me for rejecting her." Grace set a cup of coffee in front of him. "Drink this. Getting angry won't help Olivia." Theodore sat down heavily, his shoulders sagging. "You're right. We need to stay calm. Focus on tomorrow." That night they prepared. Theodore called Nathan, who walked them through what to expect. The social worker would interview Olivia, inspect the house, ask questions about their routines and relationships. She would be looking for signs of neglect or abuse, anything that suggested Olivia wasn't safe or well cared for. "Just be honest," Nathan advised. "Show her how much you love Olivia. That's all you can do." Rebecca barely slept. She kept imagining all the ways this could go wrong. What if Olivia said something that sounded bad out of context? What if Angela saw Rebecca as a threat instead of a caretaker? What if they took Olivia away? The thought made her physically ill. Angela Torres arrived at exactly 2 o'clock the next afternoon. She was younger than Rebecca expected, maybe 35, with kind eyes and a professional demeanor. She shook hands with Theodore and Rebecca, then knelt down to greet Olivia. "Hi, Olivia. My name is Angela. I'm here to talk with you for a little bit. Is that okay?" Olivia glanced at her father, who nodded encouragingly. "Okay." Angela spent 45 minutes with Olivia alone in the living room while Rebecca and Theodore waited in the kitchen, tense and silent. Grace brought tea that no one drank. The clock on the wall ticked loudly, each second an eternity. Finally, Angela emerged with Olivia, who ran straight to Rebecca and wrapped her arms around her waist. Angela's expression gave nothing away. "Mr. Peterson, Miss Hollis, could we speak privately?" They went into Theodore's office, leaving Olivia with Grace. Angela sat across from them, a folder open on her lap. "I want to start by saying that Olivia seems very happy and well-adjusted. She spoke highly of both of you. She's clearly loved and cared for." Rebecca felt some of the tension ease. But Angela wasn't finished. "However, I do have some concerns about the arrangement here. Miss Hollis, you're not Olivia's legal guardian. You have no formal training in childcare. And your relationship with Mr. Peterson appears to have evolved beyond a professional one. Is that accurate?" Rebecca's throat tightened. Yes. But that doesn't change how much I care about Olivia. I would never do anything to hurt her. I believe you. But I have to think about what's best for the child. And what happens if this relationship ends? Where does that leave Olivia? She's already lost her mother. Exposing her to another potential loss concerns me. Theodore leaned forward, his voice firm but respectful. Miss Torres, I understand your concerns. But Rebecca isn't going anywhere. We're committed to making this work. For Olivia's sake and for our own. Can you guarantee that? The question hung in the air. Theodore glanced at Rebecca, and she saw the answer in his eyes before he spoke it. No. No one can guarantee anything. But I can tell you that Rebecca has been the best thing to happen to this family in 3 years. My daughter smiles again. She laughs. She's not afraid to love because someone finally showed her it's safe to. That's because of Rebecca. Angela made a note in her folder. I'll be filing a report. There's no evidence of abuse or neglect, so I won't be recommending removal. But this complaint will remain on file. If any further concerns arise, we'll have to investigate again. Who filed the complaint? Theodore asked. I can't tell you that. It was Patricia Monroe, wasn't it? Angela's face remained neutral. I'm not at liberty to say. After Angela left, Rebecca stood in the hallway, her whole body trembling. Theodore pulled her into his arms, holding her tight. It's over. She's not taking Olivia. But what if Patricia tries again? What if she keeps making complaints until they have no choice but to investigate more seriously? Then we fight. We document everything. We show them that Olivia is thriving. We don't let fear win. That evening, Patricia Monroe called. Theodore answered, his voice cold. What do you want, Patricia? Rebecca couldn't hear Patricia's response, but she saw Theodore's face harden. You had no right. You put my daughter through an interrogation because you're bitter about something that has nothing to do with you. More murmuring on the other end. I don't care about your concerns. I don't care about your feelings. Stay away from my family. If you contact DCFS again, I will pursue legal action for harassment. Are we clear? He hung up without waiting for an answer. Rebecca touched his arm. What did she say? That she was worried about Olivia. That she thought the situation was inappropriate. Theodore's voice was tight with anger. She's lying. This was revenge, pure and simple. That night, Olivia had nightmares. She woke up crying, calling for Rebecca. Rebecca rushed to her room and gathered the little girl into her arms, rocking her gently. The lady asked me so many questions, Olivia sobbed. She asked if I was happy. If you and Daddy fight. If anyone ever hurts me. I didn't know what to say. You did perfectly, honey. You told the truth. That's all anyone can ask. I don't want them to take you away. Rebecca's heart broke. No one is taking me away. I promise. I'm staying right here with you. Promise? I promise. Theodore appeared in the doorway, his face drawn. He sat on the other side of Olivia's bed and took her hand. Rebecca's right, sweetheart. She's not going anywhere. And neither am I. We're a family now. And families stick together. Olivia looked between them, her eyes red and swollen. Really? Really? They said in unison. Olivia sniffled and wiped her nose on her pajama sleeve. Can you both stay until I fall asleep? They stayed, one on each side of her bed, holding her hands until her breathing evened out and she drifted off. Then they sat in the hallway outside her room, their backs against the wall, exhausted and shaken. I'm sorry, Rebecca whispered. This is my fault. If I hadn't come here. Stop. This isn't your fault. This is Patricia's bitterness and malice. Not you. But what if she's right? What if I'm not good for Olivia? Theodore turned to face her, his eyes fierce. You are the best thing that's happened to Olivia. To both of us. Don't let Patricia's poison make you doubt that. Rebecca leaned her head against his shoulder, tears sliding down her cheeks. I'm scared, Theodore. I'm scared of losing her. Of losing you. Of this whole thing falling apart. I'm scared too. But we're going to get through this. Together. They sat there in the darkness, listening to Olivia's soft breathing, holding on to each other and the fragile hope that love might be enough to weather any storm. The next morning, flowers arrived. A large bouquet of white lilies with a card that read, I'm sorry, Patricia. Rebecca stared at the flowers, unsure what to feel. Anger. Relief. Suspicion. Theodore threw the card in the trash. Too little, too late. But Rebecca wondered. Maybe people could change. Maybe kindness could reach even the bitterest heart. She kept the flowers. Olivia's 6th birthday fell on a Saturday in late September, when the air had just begun to cool and the leaves were thinking about changing colors. She had been talking about it for weeks, planning every detail with the seriousness of a military strategist. "I want a butterfly cake," she told Rebecca one evening, "with purple frosting and pink flowers. And I want to invite Jamie and Sophia and Kayla from school, and Uncle Nathan, and maybe some other people too." "What about Mrs. Monroe?" Rebecca asked carefully. "Sophia's mom?" Olivia scrunched up her nose. "I guess. Sophia's my friend. Even if her mom was mean." Rebecca's heart ached at the child's simple forgiveness. She had been worried about inviting Patricia after everything that had happened. But Olivia wanted her friend there, and Rebecca wouldn't deny her that. Theodore was hesitant when Rebecca brought it up. "Are you sure that's a good idea? Olivia wants Sophia there. And maybe this is a chance for Patricia to see that we're not the enemy. That we're just trying to love this little girl the best way we know how." Theodore sighed. "You're more forgiving than I am." "Maybe. Or maybe I just believe people deserve second chances." The week before the party, Rebecca threw herself into preparations. She baked the butterfly cake from scratch, spending hours perfecting the purple frosting and delicate sugar flowers. She hung streamers in Olivia's favorite colors throughout the living room and dining room. She made party favor bags filled with stickers and small toys. Grace helped, showing Rebecca how to make tiny sandwiches cut into shapes and fruit skewers that looked like rainbows. Theodore handled the invitations and arranged for a face painter to come for an hour. On the morning of the party, Olivia woke up before dawn, too excited to sleep. She bounded into Rebecca's room and jumped on the bed. "It's my birthday. I'm 6 now." "That's a whole hand and one more finger." Rebecca laughed and pulled her into a hug. "Happy birthday, sweet girl. Should we go make birthday pancakes?" They spent the morning cooking together, Olivia wearing the apron Rebecca had bought her special for the occasion. It was bright red with white polka dots, and Olivia refused to take it off, even when she got chocolate chips all over it. Theodore joined them for breakfast, presenting Olivia with a small wrapped box. She tore into it with glee, revealing a delicate silver bracelet with a butterfly charm. "It's perfect, Daddy. Thank you." She hugged him fiercely, then turned to Rebecca. "Can you help me put it on?" Rebecca fastened the bracelet around Olivia's tiny wrist, her hands trembling slightly. The simple joy on Olivia's face, the trust in her eyes, made Rebecca's throat tight with emotion. Guests started arriving at noon. Children poured into the house, their excited shrieks filling the air. Parents followed more cautiously, some greeting Theodore warmly, others eyeing Rebecca with poorly concealed curiosity. Patricia Monroe arrived last, holding Sophia's hand. She wore a strained smile and carried a neatly wrapped present. When her eyes met Rebecca's, something complicated passed between them. "Thank you for inviting us," Patricia said quietly. "Olivia wanted Sophia here. That's what matters." Patricia nodded, her lips pressed into a thin line. "May I speak with you? Privately?" Rebecca's stomach tightened, but she nodded. They stepped into the kitchen while Theodore supervised the children and the face painter set up in the living room. Patricia set her purse on the counter, her hands twisting together. "I owe you an apology. A real one, not just flowers and a card." "You don't have to. Please. Let me say this." Patricia took a breath. "I was wrong to call DCFS. I was wrong to judge you without knowing you. I was bitter and jealous and I took it out on you and Olivia. That was inexcusable." Rebecca studied her, looking for insincerity. She found only regret. "Why were you jealous?" Patricia laughed, but it was a sad sound. "Because you have what I wanted. A place in Theodore's life. A connection with Olivia. After my husband died, I was so alone. And Theodore was alone too, and I thought maybe we could help each other. But he wasn't interested. And then you came along and I saw how he looked at you, how Olivia loved you, and I couldn't stand it. I'm sorry you were hurting. That's not an excuse for what I did. I almost destroyed something beautiful because I was too wrapped up in my own pain to see it." Patricia wiped her eyes. "I've watched you with Olivia today. The way you made that cake, the way you organized everything to make her happy. You love her. Really love her. And that's what she needs." Rebecca's own eyes stung. "Thank you for saying that. It means more than you know. Can we start over? Not as friends maybe. Not yet. But as neighbors who want the best for their children." Rebecca extended her hand. "I'd like that." Patricia shook it, relief flooding her face. "Thank you." They returned to the party together, and Rebecca saw Theodore's eyebrows rise in surprise. She gave him a small smile and he relaxed slightly. The party was chaos in the best way. Children raced through the house, their faces painted with butterflies and rainbows. They played games in the garden, ate too much cake and laughed until their sides hurt. Olivia was the center of it all, glowing with happiness, her butterfly bracelet catching the light. When it was time to sing happy birthday, everyone gathered around the dining room table. The butterfly cake sat in the middle, 6 candles flickering. Rebecca stood next to Theodore, Olivia between them, and as they sang, Rebecca felt something shift inside her. This was her family. Not by blood or contract or obligation, but by choice, by love, by the 1,000 small moments that had built something real and lasting. Olivia blew out her candles and everyone cheered. She looked up at Rebecca and Theodore, her smile so wide it seemed to split her face in half. "This is the best birthday ever," she announced. After the guests left and the house had been cleaned, Olivia crashed on the couch, exhausted and happy. Theodore carried her upstairs to bed and Rebecca followed, helping her change into pajamas. "Did you have a good day, honey?" Rebecca asked, tucking the covers around her. "The best. Thank you for making my cake. And for inviting all my friends. And for everything." Olivia's eyelids were already drooping. "I love you, Rebecca." The words hit Rebecca like a physical blow. She had heard Olivia say she liked her, that she was glad she was here. But love, that was different. That was permanent. "I love you too, Olivia. So much." Olivia smiled sleepily and closed her eyes. Within minutes she was asleep, Mr. Buttons tucked under her arm. Rebecca stood and found Theodore in the doorway watching them both. His eyes were suspiciously bright. "Did you hear that?" he whispered. "Yes. She's never said that to anyone since Catherine died. Not even to me." Rebecca's heart broke for him. "She loves you, Theodore. She just doesn't know how to say it yet. Maybe. But she knows how to say it to you. And that means everything." They stood together in the quiet hallway, the house settling around them. Then Theodore took Rebecca's hand and led her downstairs into his office. He closed the door and turned to face her. "I need to tell you something. And I should have said it weeks ago." Rebecca's heart raced. "Okay. I love you, Rebecca. Not because you're good with Olivia. Not because you've made this house feel like a home again. But because of who you are. Your kindness. Your strength. The way you see the best in people, even when they don't deserve it." He stepped closer, his voice dropping. "I didn't think I could feel this way again. I didn't think I deserved to. But you've shown me that love doesn't replace what we've lost. It adds to it. It builds something new." Rebecca's eyes filled with tears. "I love you too. I've been trying trying to keep it professional, but I can't help it. You and Olivia, you've become my whole world." Theodore cupped her face in his hands, his touch gentle. "Then marry me. Not because of a contract. Not because it makes legal sense. Because I want to wake up every day for the rest of my life and know you're here. Because I want to build a real family with you. Because I love you." Rebecca's breath caught. "Are you serious?" "Completely. I know it's fast. I know there are a million reasons to wait. But I also know that life is short and uncertain, and I don't want to waste another day without you being officially mine." Rebecca laughed through her tears. "Yes. Yes, I'll marry you." Theodore pulled her into a kiss, soft and sweet and full of promise. When they finally broke apart, both of them were smiling. "I don't have a ring yet," he admitted. "I don't need one. I just need you. And Olivia. And this life we're building together. You'll have it. All of it. I promise." They stood there in his office, holding each other, while outside the window the garden bloomed and the stars came out one by one, and somewhere upstairs a little girl slept peacefully, loved and safe and home. Daniel Hollis arrived on a Wednesday afternoon in early October, stepping off a bus in downtown Charleston with a duffel bag slung over his shoulder and a cautious smile on his face. Rebecca saw him before he saw her, and her heart clenched at how thin he still was, how the illness had aged him beyond his 30 years. Then he spotted her and his whole face lit up, and for a moment he looked like the brother she remembered from before the cancer, before the fear, before everything had gotten so hard. "Becca." He dropped his bag and pulled her into a hug that nearly lifted her off her feet. "God, I've missed you." "I've missed you too, Danny." She held him tight, blinking back tears. "How are you feeling?" "Better every day. The doctors say I'm in remission. Can you believe it?" He pulled back to look at her, his eyes scanning her face. "You look different. Happy." "I am happy." "Good. You deserve it." He grabbed his bag. "So where's this palace you're living in?" Rebecca had told Theodore about Daniel's visit weeks ago, and Theodore had insisted Daniel stay at the estate instead of a hotel. Rebecca had protested, not wanting to impose, but Theodore had been firm. He's your brother. He's family. That means he's welcome here as long as he needs. Now, driving through the gates of the estate, Rebecca watched Daniel's jaw drop. Holy Becca, this place is insane. It's a lot, I know. A lot? It's a mansion. Like an actual mansion. He turned to her, his expression serious. And this guy, Theodore. He's treating you right? Because if he's not. He is. I promise. He's good to me. And to Olivia. As if summoned, Olivia burst out of the front door as soon as Rebecca parked, her face alight with excitement. Is this Daniel? Rebecca's brother? Daniel knelt down to her level, grinning. That's me. And you must be the famous Olivia. Rebecca talks about you all the time. Olivia beamed. Really? What does she say? That you're smart and funny and kind. And that you have excellent taste in bedtime stories. Olivia giggled and grabbed his hand. Come on, I'll show you your room. It's really big and it has its own bathroom. Daniel let himself be dragged inside, shooting Rebecca an amused glance over his shoulder. Theodore met them in the foyer, extending his hand. Daniel. It's good to finally meet you. Rebecca's told me a lot about you. They shook hands, Daniel sizing Theodore up with the protective intensity of an older brother. Whatever he saw must have satisfied him because his posture relaxed slightly. Thanks for having me, Mr. Peterson. And for everything. Rebecca said you've been covering my medical expenses. I don't know how to repay that. You don't need to. Rebecca is family to us now. That makes you family too. Theodore's smile was genuine. Please stay as long as you need to get your strength back. Over the next few days, Daniel settled into the guest room and into the rhythm of the household. He was still weak, tiring easily, but his spirit was strong. He spent mornings resting, afternoons with Olivia teaching her card tricks and telling stories about Rebecca's childhood that made her blush and Olivia howl with laughter. Did Rebecca really climb onto the roof to rescue a cat? Olivia asked one afternoon, her eyes wide. She did. And she got stuck up there and the fire department had to come get her down. She was grounded for a month. Daniel grinned at Rebecca. But she saved that cat. Even then, she couldn't stand to see anyone hurting. Olivia looked at Rebecca with newfound admiration. You're so brave. Rebecca laughed, embarrassed. I was also 12 and very stupid. Brave and stupid often go together, Theodore said from the doorway, his eyes warm as they met Rebecca's. That night, after Olivia was in bed, the three adults sat in the living room. Grace had left a pot of decaf coffee and a plate of cookies, and they talked about everything and nothing. Daniel told stories about their childhood, about their parents who had died too young, about the scrappy life they had built together. Rebecca basically raised me after Mom and Dad passed, Daniel said. I was 17, she was 23. She worked 2 jobs to keep us afloat, made sure I finished high school, helped me apply for college scholarships. Everything I am is because of her. Theodore looked at Rebecca, something like awe in his expression. I didn't know that. Rebecca shrugged, uncomfortable with the praise. We did what we had to do. We're family. Yeah, well, I owe you everything, Becca. And I'm glad you finally found people who see how amazing you are. Daniel's voice grew thick. When I got sick, I was so scared. Not of dying. Of leaving you alone. But now, he gestured around the room. Now I know you're not alone anymore. And that's the best gift anyone could give me. The words hung in the air, heavy with emotion. Theodore cleared his throat and stood. I'm going to give you two some privacy. Daniel, if you need anything, don't hesitate to ask. After Theodore left, Daniel turned to Rebecca with raised eyebrows. He loves you. Like really loves you. I know. And I love him too. Are you sure about this, Becca? About all of it? Because this life, this world, it's so different from where we came from. Rebecca considered the question. A month ago she might have doubted. Might have felt like an imposter playing a role. But now, I'm sure. This isn't about the house or the money or any of that. It's about Olivia. About Theodore. About building something real with people who value me for who I am, not what I can do for them. Daniel studied her face, then nodded slowly. Okay. Then I'm happy for you. You deserve this, Becca. You deserve all the happiness in the world. They stayed up late that night, just the two of them, talking the way they used to when they shared a tiny apartment and every penny counted. Daniel told her about his plans for the future, about maybe going back to school, about the fear that the cancer might return and the determination to live fully anyway. Rebecca told him about her fears too. About feeling like she didn't belong in Theodore's world. About worrying that one day he would wake up and realize he had made a mistake. About the vulnerability of loving people when you had spent so long protecting yourself from hurt. Love is always a risk, Daniel said quietly. But it's a risk worth taking. You taught me that. The next evening, Theodore asked Daniel to join him in his office. Rebecca found them an hour later, deep in conversation, papers spread across the desk. What's going on? She asked. Theodore looked up, his expression carefully neutral. I'm helping Daniel look into some job opportunities. And possibly funding for school if he decides to go that route. Daniel's eyes were suspiciously bright. He wants to help me get back on my feet. Set me up with some connections in Ohio when I'm ready to go home. Rebecca's throat tightened. Theodore, you don't have to. I want to. Daniel is important to you, which makes him important to me. Besides, any brother of yours is someone I want to invest in. Rebecca crossed the room and kissed Theodore's cheek, unable to find words for what his kindness meant to her. He squeezed her hand, understanding without needing her to explain. Daniel stayed for 2 weeks, growing stronger each day. He and Olivia formed a bond that delighted everyone, Olivia declaring him the best uncle ever even though they weren't really related. He taught her magic tricks and helped her with her math homework and listened with genuine interest to her long, rambling stories about school and friends and the ladybug she had found in the garden. On his last night they had a special dinner. Grace outdid herself with Daniel's favorite foods, and they ate and laughed and made toasts to new beginnings. Olivia made Daniel promise to visit again soon, and he swore he would. You're part of the family now, Olivia said seriously. So you have to come back. Daniel hugged her tight. I will, kiddo. I promise. The next morning, Rebecca drove Daniel to the bus station. They sat in the car for a few minutes before he had to leave, neither wanting to say goodbye. You're going to be okay? Rebecca asked. I'm going to be great. Thanks to you. Thanks to Theodore. He took her hand. Becca, I need you to hear this. You spent your whole life taking care of other people. Mom and Dad when they were sick. Me after they died. You've earned the right to be taken care of now. To let people love you. Don't push that away because you're scared or because you think you don't deserve it. I'm trying. I know. And you're doing great. He kissed her forehead. Be happy, okay? That's all I want for you. I will. I am. She watched him board the bus, waving until it disappeared from sight. Then she drove home through streets that felt more familiar now, past houses where she no longer felt like an outsider, to the estate that had somehow become home. Theodore was waiting for her in the driveway. He pulled her into his arms without a word, holding her while she cried tears she hadn't known she was carrying. When she finally pulled back, he wiped her cheeks and smiled. He's going to be okay. And so are you. I know. I just miss him already. Then we'll bring him back for Thanksgiving. And Christmas. And any other time you want to see him. This is his home too now. Always. Rebecca's heart swelled with love so fierce it almost hurt. How did I get so lucky? I'm the lucky one. He kissed her forehead. Come on. Olivia's making us lunch. Apparently, it involves peanut butter and jelly and a suspicious amount of sprinkles. They walked inside together, hand in hand, ready to face whatever came next as a family. Theodore had been acting strange all week. Not bad strange. Just distracted. He would start to say something, then stop. He kept checking his phone and smiling at messages Rebecca couldn't see. Twice she caught him staring at her with an expression so tender it made her breath catch. Is everything okay? She asked on Thursday night as they cleaned up after dinner. Perfect. Why? You seem preoccupied. Just work stuff. Nothing to worry about. But his smile was secretive, and Rebecca knew he was hiding something. On Friday, Nathan came by to pick up Olivia for the evening. His wife, Melissa, wanted to take Olivia to a pottery painting class, and Olivia had been excited about it all week. You sure you don't mind? Rebecca asked as Olivia grabbed her backpack. Are you kidding? Melissa loves Olivia. Plus it gives you two a night off. Enjoy it. Nathan winked, and Rebecca wondered what he knew that she didn't. After they left, Theodore appeared in the kitchen dressed in dark jeans and a soft blue sweater that made his eyes look even darker. Feel like taking a drive? Where to? It's a surprise. They drove south along the coast highway, the setting sun painting the sky in shades of orange and pink. Rebecca rolled down her window and let the salt air whip through her hair, watching the ocean stretch endlessly beside them. After 40 minutes, Theodore turned onto a narrow road that led to a secluded beach. There were no other cars, no people, just sand and waves and sky. He parked and came around to open her door, taking her hand as they walked toward the water. The beach was beautiful in the fading light, the waves gentle, the sand still warm from the day's sun. This is where I proposed to Catherine, Theodore said quietly. 12 years ago. I brought her here at sunset, got down on one knee in the sand and asked her to marry me. Rebecca's chest tightened. Theodore. Let me finish. He turned to face her, still holding her hand. I loved Catherine. I will always love her. She was my first love, Olivia's mother, a part of my history. But she's gone. And for 3 years I thought love was gone too. That I had used up my chance at happiness. The waves crashed behind them, a gentle rhythm. Then you walked into my life. Nervous and brave and willing to stay even when I gave you every reason to leave. You brought Olivia back to life. You brought me back to life. And I realized that love doesn't run out. It doesn't get used up. It grows. It builds. It makes room for new people and new beginnings. He let go of her hand and knelt in the sand, pulling a small velvet box from his pocket. Rebecca's breath stopped. I brought you to this beach because it's important to me. Because it represents both my past and my future. Because I want you to know that choosing you doesn't mean forgetting Catherine. It means honoring her by living fully, by loving completely, by giving Olivia the family she deserves. He opened the box, revealing a simple gold ring with a single diamond that caught the dying light. Rebecca Hollis, will you marry me? Will you be Olivia's mother and my wife and the person I wake up next to for the rest of my life? Will you build a future with us, knowing that we come with history and complications and a past that will always be part of our story? Rebecca's vision blurred with tears. She thought about the day she had stepped off that bus, terrified and hopeful, expecting rejection. She thought about Olivia's first smile, the way her small hand had felt in Rebecca's. She thought about Theodore's slow thaw, the way he had let her in piece by piece until she held his whole heart. She thought about Daniel's words. About deserving happiness. About letting herself be loved. Yes, she whispered. Then louder, yes. Yes, I'll marry you. Theodore's face broke into the widest smile she had ever seen. He slid the ring onto her finger, then stood and pulled her into a kiss that tasted like salt and promise and forever. They held each other as the sun sank below the horizon, the sky darkening to purple and then to black, stars emerging one by one above them. When did you get the ring? Rebecca asked eventually, her head against his chest. 2 weeks ago. I've been carrying it around, waiting for the right moment. Nathan thought I was insane. Nathan knew. He helped me pick it out. Melissa too. They're very invested in our happiness. Theodore pulled back to look at her. Are you okay? I know this is fast. We've only been together a few months. I'm more than okay. I'm happy. Really, truly happy. Good. Because I have another surprise. He led her further down the beach to where a blanket was spread out, anchored by stones at each corner. A picnic basket sat in the middle, along with a battery-powered lantern that cast a warm glow. You planned this. I had help. Grace made the food. Nathan set everything up while we were driving. I just had to get you here. They sat on the blanket and ate cheese and crackers and strawberries, talking about everything and nothing. About wedding plans and Olivia's reaction and where they might go for a honeymoon. About the future they were building, brick by brick, choice by choice. I want Olivia to be part of the wedding, Rebecca said. Not just a flower girl. I want her to know that I'm choosing her too. That this is about all three of us becoming a family. She'll love that. Theodore's eyes were soft. Have I told you today how much I love you? Maybe once or twice. Well, I'm telling you again. I love you, Rebecca. I love your kindness and your strength and the way you see the best in people. I love how you make Olivia laugh and how you never give up even when things are hard. I love that you chose us when you could have walked away a dozen times. Rebecca's throat ached with emotion. I love you too. All of you. Even the stubborn parts. They stayed on the beach until the stars were out in full force, the Milky Way stretching across the sky like a river of light. Then they packed up the picnic and drove home, Rebecca's ring catching the dashboard lights every time she moved her hand. When they arrived at the estate, Nathan's car was in the driveway. They found him and Melissa in the living room with Olivia, who was showing off the mug she had painted. Look, Rebecca. I made it for you. It has butterflies. Rebecca took the mug carefully, admiring the slightly wobbly butterflies in various shades of purple and pink. It's perfect, honey. Thank you. Olivia beamed. Then she noticed Rebecca's hand. Her eyes went wide. Is that a ring? Like a princess ring? Theodore knelt down beside his daughter. It's an engagement ring. I asked Rebecca to marry me and she said yes. Which means she's going to be part of our family officially. How do you feel about that? Olivia looked at Rebecca, then at her father, then back at Rebecca. For a long moment she was silent, and Rebecca's heart hammered with worry. Then Olivia threw her arms around Rebecca's waist and squeezed so hard it almost hurt. "I'm so happy. You're going to be my real mom now." Rebecca hugged her back, tears streaming down her face. "I'm going to try my best to be the mom you deserve." "You already are," Olivia whispered. Nathan and Melissa congratulated them with hugs and champagne for the adults and sparkling cider for Olivia. They toasted to new beginnings, to love, to the family that was forming in the spaces where grief had once lived. Later that night, after everyone had left and Olivia was asleep, Rebecca stood in her room, now feeling more like a temporary space than a home. Soon she would move into Theodore's room. Soon this would all be official. Theodore knocked and entered without waiting for an answer, pulling her into his arms. Having second thoughts? Not even a little. She held up her hand, watching the ring sparkle. "This feels like a dream. It's real. And it's just the beginning." He kissed her forehead. "We have a lifetime ahead of us, Rebecca. A lifetime of mornings and nights and everything in between. And I can't wait to spend every single day choosing you." Rebecca tilted her face up to his. "Then let's make it official as soon as possible." "I don't want to wait." "Neither do I." They decided on a small ceremony, just family and close friends. 6 months felt like the right amount of time. Enough to plan something meaningful, but not so long that the waiting felt unbearable. That night, Rebecca lay in bed and thought about all the ways her life had changed. She had come here expecting nothing, hoping for survival, and had found a family instead. Love instead. A future instead. She touched her ring and smiled in the darkness, grateful for every choice that had led her here, to this moment, to this impossible, beautiful life. The 6 months between the proposal and the wedding passed in a blur of planning and living and growing into the shape of their new family. Rebecca moved into Theodore's room, her belongings blending with his until the space felt like theirs instead of his. Olivia helped pick out flowers for the ceremony, insisting on butterflies somewhere, somehow. "Because butterflies mean change and new beginnings," she explained seriously. "My teacher said so." Rebecca had smiled and agreed, and now, on the morning of the wedding, butterfly decorations hung throughout the garden where they would exchange vows. The ceremony was planned for late afternoon in late March, when the garden was at its most beautiful. Roses bloomed in every color, and the azaleas Theodore's wife had planted years ago had grown tall and lush. Rebecca had worried about this at first, about being married in a place Catherine had loved. But Theodore had taken her hand and told her that Catherine would have wanted them to fill this space with new joy, not seal it off in memorial. Rebecca stood in the guest room she had first stayed in 6 months ago, now transformed into a bridal suite. Melissa helped her with the zipper of her dress, a simple ivory gown with lace sleeves and a flowing skirt. Nothing extravagant. Nothing that felt like she was trying to be someone she wasn't. "You look beautiful," Melissa said, stepping back to admire her work. Rebecca looked in the mirror and barely recognized herself. Not because she looked so different, but because she looked happy. Genuinely, radiantly happy. There was a knock on the door and Olivia burst in, wearing her bright blue flower girl dress. She stopped short when she saw Rebecca. "Wow. You look like a fairy princess." Rebecca laughed and knelt down carefully. "And you look like the most beautiful flower girl in the world. Daddy said I get to walk you down the aisle. Is that really true?" "Really true. You and Uncle Daniel both." Daniel had arrived the day before, healthy and strong, his eyes clear and his smile easy. He had pulled Rebecca aside and told her how proud he was, how happy he was that she had found this life, this love. Now he appeared in the doorway, handsome in his dark suit. "Ready, Becca?" "Ready." They walked downstairs and out into the garden, where 30 chairs were arranged in neat rows facing an arbor covered in white roses and, true to Olivia's request, delicate butterfly decorations that caught the light and seemed to shimmer. Theodore stood beneath the arbor with Nathan beside him, both men in dark suits, both smiling. But Theodore's eyes locked on Rebecca the moment she appeared, and the rest of the world faded away. Olivia held Rebecca's left hand, Daniel her right, and together they walked down the aisle. Grace sat in the front row, dabbing at her eyes with a tissue. Patricia Monroe sat a few rows back with Sophia, her face serene and genuinely happy. When they reached the arbor, Daniel kissed Rebecca's cheek and took his seat. Olivia stayed right where she was, standing between Rebecca and Theodore as Nathan began the ceremony. "We gather today to celebrate not just a marriage but a family," Nathan said, his voice carrying across the garden. "Theodore, Rebecca, and Olivia. 3 people who found each other in unexpected ways and chose to build something beautiful together." Nathan spoke about love and choice and the courage it takes to open your heart after loss. He spoke about family being more than blood, about how the bonds we choose can be just as strong as the ones we're born with. Then it was time for vows. Theodore took Rebecca's hands, his grip steady and sure. Rebecca, 6 months ago you stood in my house and told me I could send you back. That you would leave without complaint if I didn't want you here. I want you to know that I will never send you back. I will never stop wanting you here. You brought light back into our lives when I didn't think it was possible. You showed Olivia what love looks like. You showed me that my heart could heal. I promise to choose you every day for the rest of our lives. To love you in good times and bad. To be your partner, your friend, your home. Rebecca's vision blurred with tears. She took a shaky breath and began her own vows. Theodore, when I came here, I was looking for survival. A roof over my head. Money to save my brother. I wasn't looking for love. But you gave it to me anyway. You and Olivia both. You gave me a family when I thought I would always be alone. You gave me hope when I had forgotten what it felt like. I promise to love you and Olivia with everything I have. To be patient and kind and present. To build a life with you that honors the past but doesn't live in it. To be brave enough to stay even when things get hard. Nathan turned to Olivia. Olivia, do you have something you'd like to say? Olivia nodded solemnly. She had been practicing her part for weeks, determined to get it right. Rebecca, I'm really glad you came to live with us. You make the best cookies and you read stories with all the voices and you never get mad when I ask too many questions. I promise to keep my room clean most of the time and to always tell you when something is wrong and to love you forever and ever. The audience laughed softly and Rebecca pulled Olivia into a hug, not caring if it messed up her dress or her makeup. I promise the same things, she whispered into Olivia's hair. Nathan smiled. Then by the power vested in me, I now pronounce you husband and wife. Theodore, you may kiss your bride. Theodore cupped Rebecca's face in his hands and kissed her gently, sweetly, while their small audience applauded and Olivia bounced on her toes with excitement. The reception was held right there in the garden, tables set up under strings of lights that would glow when the sun set. Grace had outdone herself with the food, and there was a 3-tier cake decorated with delicate sugar butterflies. Rebecca and Theodore danced their first dance to a song about new beginnings while Olivia sat on Nathan's lap and watched, her eyes wide. Then Theodore danced with Olivia, and Rebecca danced with Daniel, and soon everyone was on their feet, celebrating under the fading light. Patricia Monroe approached Rebecca during a quiet moment, holding a glass of champagne. Thank you for inviting me. It means more than you know. You're Sophia's mother and Olivia's friend. Of course we wanted you here. You're more gracious than I deserve. Patricia smiled, genuine and warm. I hope you'll be very happy, Rebecca. You've earned it. As the evening deepened, they cut the cake, shared toasts, and soaked in the joy of the people they loved most. Daniel gave a speech that made everyone laugh and cry, talking about Rebecca's fierce loyalty and capacity for love. Nathan spoke about Theodore's journey from grief to hope, crediting Rebecca with the transformation. When it was time for Rebecca and Theodore to leave for their honeymoon, a weekend at a quiet coastal inn, Olivia clung to them both. You're coming back, right? Of course we are, Rebecca assured her. We'll be back in 3 days. And Grace is going to spoil you rotten while we're gone. Absolutely rotten, Grace confirmed, taking Olivia's hand. We're going to bake cookies and watch movies and stay up past bedtime. Olivia perked up at that, and she waved enthusiastically as they drove away, her small figure growing smaller until they turned the corner and she disappeared from view. The honeymoon was perfect. Quiet mornings on the beach, long walks along the shore, dinners where they talked about everything and nothing. They made plans for the future, discussed possibly adopting Olivia officially so Rebecca would be her legal mother. They talked about maybe someday having another child. They dreamed and planned and simply enjoyed being together without schedules or responsibilities. But as wonderful as it was, they were both ready to go home by the 3rd day. Ready to see Olivia, to slip back into the rhythm of their life. When they pulled into the driveway, Olivia was waiting on the front steps, bouncing with excitement. She ran to them the moment they stepped out of the car. You're home. I missed you so much. We missed you too, sweetheart, Theodore said, scooping her up. They went inside together, the 3 of them, and Rebecca felt a sense of rightness settle over her. This was home. Not the house or the garden or any of it. But these people. This family. This love they had built together. That night, after Olivia was tucked into bed, Rebecca and Theodore stood in the garden where they had been married just days before. The lights still hung overhead, twinkling like stars. Do you ever think about how we got here? Rebecca asked. How unlikely all of this was? Every day. And every day I'm grateful for it. Theodore pulled her close. For you. For Olivia. For this second chance at happiness. It's not a second chance. It's a new beginning. Different from what came before, but no less beautiful. You're right. He kissed her forehead. Thank you for seeing that. For helping me see that. They stood there in the quiet garden, holding each other, while inside the house Olivia slept peacefully, secure in the knowledge that she was loved. That they all were. 6 months later, Rebecca officially adopted Olivia. The process was simple and joyful, ending with a judge declaring that Rebecca was now legally Olivia's mother. Olivia had cried happy tears and hugged Rebecca so tight she could barely breathe. Now it's official, Olivia said. You're my mom for real. I was your mom the moment you chose me, Rebecca said. The paperwork just makes it legal. They continued to build their life together. Birthdays and holidays and ordinary Tuesdays that were somehow just as precious. Rebecca started taking night classes, thinking about maybe becoming a teacher. Theodore cut back on work hours to be home more. Olivia thrived, her confidence growing with every passing month. Daniel visited often, eventually moving to Charleston to be closer to them. He got a job at a marketing firm and started dating a woman he had met at physical therapy. The family grew, expanded, made room for new people and new love. On Olivia's 7th birthday, she made a wish and blew out her candles in one breath. Later, when Rebecca asked what she had wished for, Olivia shook her head. I can't tell you or it won't come true. Can you give me a hint? Olivia smiled, secretive and happy. I wish that everything would stay just like this forever. Because this is perfect. Rebecca pulled her daughter close, breathing in the scent of her shampoo, feeling the steady beat of her heart. Me too, baby. Me too. And as the years rolled on, that wish came true in all the ways that mattered. Not because everything was perfect, but because they faced every challenge together. Because they chose each other every single day. Because love, real love, doesn't require perfection. It just requires showing up, staying present, and believing that together, you can weather any storm. Rebecca never forgot the day she arrived at that house, terrified and hopeful, expecting rejection. She never forgot Olivia's small hand in hers, or Theodore's slow thaw, or the countless moments that built this life they now shared. She never forgot what it felt like to be chosen, to be loved, to finally come home.